604, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, off and running. Brian here with you, John LaBeouf producing. We're starting off this rainy morning at 66 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. And yeah, we have light rain right now that goes along with the thunder and the lightning, and it's going to be this way for some time. So buckle up if there's any alerts, if there's any flash flooding, if there's anything going on that you need to be notified of. We've got you covered throughout the morning. Now, that being said, we do still have a show planned out for you, so we will ping pong back and forth between the latest on the weather and everything else that we have on our plate. So, without any further ado, let's start off with top stories and trending.
Number 5.
With the rainfall over the next few days potentially causing flooding across the capital region, officials have announced locations where residents can get sandbags. Here in EBR, you can find them at the Airline Highway Fairgrounds, Alston Park, Baker Park, Cadillac Street Park, Doyle's Bayou Park, Flannery Road Park, Hartley Bay on Gardere Park, Lovett Road Park, and Memorial Stadium.
Number 4.
Charges have been dropped against the former Baton Rouge police officer who was arrested twice in 1 month on sexual assault charges, his attorney said. DeMichael Robertson was formally charged with third-degree rape after a woman reported to Zachary police that Robertson forced her to have sex with him back in December of 2022.
Number 3.
Attorney General Liz Murrill has sued the city of Baker and its council members, claiming the city council violated the open meetings law. The lawsuit, which was filed Friday, alleges the Baker City Council held a special meeting back on March 3rd to discuss whether the city's attorney, Ken Fabry, met the requirements for the position as he did not reside within the city.
Number 2.
Tourism numbers were up for last year. 9 million visitors in 2024. That's up from 8.8 million in 2023. Those 9 million collectively spent about $1.7 billion. This according to Visit Baton Rouge's newly released 2024 impact report. It's basically their overall year in review. Takes a look at how the tourism industry affects Baton Rouge.
Number 1.
Our tornado watch has been allowed to expire in the overnight hours. Main concern now is going to be flash flooding. You heard the overall forecast from Emma Kate Cowan, but breaking this down hour by hour as we go through today, there is no break in the storms today. And goodness gracious, let's see. We've got thunderstorms this hour, thunderstorms next hour. And we're talking like 90% chance. So there's very few parts of Baton Rouge that aren't going to get hit. From 9 o'clock until about 2 p.m., what you're going to see is just a steady rain. It's going to go back to a steady rain. Lightning and thunder are going to go away, but it's a 100% chance of rain through that time. After 1 p.m., 2 p.m., it should scale back, and the sun's going to poke its head out a little bit in the afternoon. So we are under a flood watch here in East Baton Rouge, West Baton Rouge, Ascension, Assumption, Iberville, East Feliciana, Livingston, Point Capiz, St. Helena, St. James, St. Mary, Tangipahoa, and West Feliciana parishes as well. Before we get to what's trending, that's on me. I had a little I had a pregnant pause right there. You were a little quick on the trigger, but what I was going to say was if there are closures to go along with it, we will have them for you.
For sure. Absolutely. As far as what's trending goes, this conclave is slated to begin at the Vatican today to determine who the next pope will be. The first vote is expected by 3 p.m. Eastern.
Yes. Is it 2 votes a day until they get it right? Once they're in, I think it's supposed to be 2 votes a day until they have a new pope. I was listening to America in the Morning last hour.
Yeah.
And I believe that's what it said, 2 votes a day, and they're really not expecting this to last more than a week. So hopefully we'll have a pope soon.
Yeah. In other news, President Trump is expected to announce that the U.S. will begin referring to the Persian Gulf as the Arabian Gulf or the Gulf of Arabia while visiting Saudi Arabia next week. So.
Okay. All right.
Why not?
Sure.
Why not?
That makes you happy.
Yeah.
I
think it makes him happy.
As Sheryl Crow said, if it makes you happy.
Yeah. The great philosopher. Man, yeah. Why not? We're just keeping it with President Trump, though. He has declared 2 national holidays: the end of World War I on November 11th, and the end of World War II on May 8th.
Interesting. All right.
there we go.
Well, the end of World War I on November 11th is Armistice Day, so that was kind of already a thing.
Yeah.
May 8th holiday.
So I guess his stamp of approval, I guess, is saying, hey.
Well, I'm curious. Does this mean we don't have to come to work tomorrow?
Right. Right.
Is that where we're at?
Right. And that's, yeah. So what degree? I mean, if it was already, what was it, Armistice Day?
I mean, you know how like we do this day in history and every day has the national day and everything. Like May 8th is National No Socks Day.
Okay.
It's National Have a Coke Day. It's World Donkey Day. I mean, I think we need to, have a really more serious holiday. Celebrating the end of World War II is probably a little bit better than World Donkey Day.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah, I can go with that.
Yeah, why not? I wonder when this will go in effect. We'll have to look into that. But yeah. Well, he's declared it. So I mean, is there anything further he has to do?
No,
So that's it.
Does he? You never think about these things. Like who gets to declare
Just say,
holiday?
you know what? Today's that day.
Yeah. Okay. I've got it right here.
I was wondering if you had to sign off on anything.
Well, does Congress have to pass anything? Trump, however, warned Americans not to expect more time away from the office. Quote, "We won 2 world wars, but we never took credit for it. Everyone else does. All over the world, the Allies are celebrating the victory we had in World War II. According to Trump, the only country that doesn't celebrate World War I and World War II is the U.S. He says, therefore, I'm declaring a national holiday in celebration of the victories of World War I, where the armistice was signed on November 11th, and World War II, where the victory date was May 8th, 1945. We will not be closing the country with these 2 very important days."
Okay, just acknowledging that
we will not. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are we doing here? What do we do? What do we? I mean, all right, we want to celebrate World War I and World War II.
Yes.
And by celebrate, I mean do everything exactly the same that you've already done it.
Yeah. Except, yeah.
No, except
there's no exceptions, really.
You do it exactly as we did. What you did on May 8th last year, you do on May 8th this year.
That's right. Still going to
you
work.
Show up, you go to work.
That's it.
You go to work, you go to lunch at PF Chang's.
Hey.
Get the lettuce chicken wraps. Take advantage of the $13.99 lunch specials. I mean, these are things that we need to be doing.
Yeah, celebrating those freedoms, right?
Celebrating the black pepper chicken. That black pepper sauce is so good. Covers all of it too.
Really?
Covers all of it. Oh. Oh. And the
he's arrived. Hey.
Oh, by the way, yeah, if you don't have your lunch plans yet, PF Chang's, you know where to find them. They're off Corporate Boulevard in Town Center. Look for the giant golden horse.
Jada Cody was in here.
The Keurigs?
That's nice. It's very nice. You deserve.
It was here last week.
I didn't see it.
Oh.
I don't normally go that far down.
No. But now, should you ever need a refill or want to skip
McDonald's, I won't wait in the McDonald's line for 10 minutes. I could just have a free coffee.
Yep.
To be fair, Brian's would always make coffee in the morning.
I do.
And there's always coffee available downstairs. What do we want to talk about first? Anything you want. Blessed are the poor, except in Baton Rouge.
Should I send them to your front yard?
I live in Terre.
I know. Should I send them to your front yard?
I got a Dollar General right around the corner from where I live. I'm good. I'm very cosmopolitan. I'm a man of the people.
No, we all want to have our hearts open to the homeless until they look for shelter in our backyard.
Are they staying in your backyard?
No, my backyard's a construction site right now.
Although, could you Airbnb your backyard and make a little tent thing going on for homeless?
No, we're putting in a mother-in-law suite. So.
I would love a mother-in-law suite in my backyard. It wouldn't be a mother-in-law suite though.
It would be a mother suite for me.
It would be
it's
like
mother-in-law suite for Kristi.
It'd be like a like a playhouse, man house. To be fair, my entire house is kind of that. So
Yeah.
tell you, man, you do have me thinking about some PF Chang's though. Ooh.
Yeah, really.
If you have not yet tried the black pepper chicken, I recommend it.
I always used to get the spicy shrimp dish. I forget the name of it, but
Firecracker shrimp.
yeah. Man, it's the sauces though. I like to make my own little sauce, and it's a good for if you have kids. It's like a good place to like integrate kids into like Asian food.
Oh yeah.
Yes. It's like with the kids menu. It's basically your Asian starter kit.
Yeah.
For the grown-ups, it's full on Asian, but. We're going to do the Paul Skeens cut first, then the Dylan Cruz one. Yeah, let's start with homelessness.
Let's see. And
Poor people are so
you emailed it to me?
gross.
Do what?
Is that something you emailed to me? Because I do not see it.
Sitting in my outbox.
Uh,
How about now?
Yep, got it now. Thank
you. 616 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. We have no highlights from last night's LSU baseball game because there was no LSU baseball game last night as expected. They went ahead and pulled the plug on this one early. LSU was supposed to play Grambling State in the box 6:30 p.m. last night. All through yesterday's show, I was reminding you, weather permitting, right? Well, weather did not permit. And this last midweek game of the season, LSU was, you always want more innings for your pitchers. You always want a couple more at bats. You always want more live action for sure. But with the forecast the way it was, they went ahead and canceled it. With the season being where it is, it will not be rescheduled, which means LSU baseball has 2 regular season series left, and they are tough ones. And we're looking at a spot where you probably, if you're the Tigers, you probably need to win 4 out of 6 games over the next 2 series in order to secure yourself a national seed. Be one of those top 8s so that you can host a regional and a super regional. Tigers will be home versus Arkansas this weekend. Now, the way this is playing out is actually it's set up right for LSU because you're going to host Arkansas and then you're going to go to South Carolina. Arkansas, very, very good. South Carolina, not so much. You need 4 wins over 6 games. So you can either go 2-1 both weekends, or should you drop the Arkansas series, go up there and sweep South Carolina at South Carolina, which probably isn't the toughest thing to do because they're not that great. Paul Maneri struggling in his first year. Meanwhile, while we don't have LSU highlights, we have former LSU highlights. A couple of Tigers I wanted to track down and see how they were doing in Major League Baseball. Let's start with Paul Skeens. We all know the amazing rookie season he had last year. Skeens is on the struggle bus this year as far as some of his overall numbers are concerned. He is 3-4 on the season. Now, why is he 3-4 on the season? Because the Pirates are terrible. Yesterday, Skeens had 6 strikeouts, including this one.
And the same with Paul Skeens.
That's something that comes back and promptly strikes out Victor Scott, number 6 for Skeens.
The call as lackluster as the offense for Pittsburgh. They lose 2-1 to Seattle. Skeens has got a 2.77 ERA. His whip is .95. He's got 47 strikeouts at 48 innings pitched. He's dealing on the mound. He's just got no help at bat. Speaking of struggling at the bat, Dylan Cruz is breaking out of a slump.
Cruz, left field line, ball in the air, off the wall. Low will score. Ruiz into third. The Mets had battled back to tie this thing, as Dylan Cruz didn't get all of it. Almost snuck it out of here for his 5th of the year.
But look where the spot is, up and in. That's not an easy place, especially for Dylan right now.
And that's the thing with him. It's not bat speed. It's not the ability to get to the ball. It's just letting the ball get to him.
Was that Napoleon Dynamite's
97.
brother on the call? Your mom goes to college. That would be the Nats' only run on the day as they fall to Cleveland 9-1. Here's the Fox Business Report.
LaFonda is definitely the best thing that's ever happened to me. I'm 100% sure she's my soulmate.
You're just jealous because I've been talking to hot babes online all day. What's his name? Kip?
Yeah. Freaking Kip.
Okay, cue up just that part of it. We'll have some fun with that here.
What, your mom goes to college?
No. Just when he talks about when he talks about Dylan Cruz.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Kristi. Good morning, Debbie.
Kristi's in this morning.
She's watching.
Awesome.
It
Good morning,
says-
sweetheart. What? Did you listen to it again? What's the thing with Dylan Cruz? All right, now get Your Mom Goes to College side by side just so we can have the comparison.
It's like comedies like Napoleon Dynamite and Nacho Libre. Just
I never saw Nacho Libre.
oh man, it's fantastic. It's fantastic.
All right, the weather's terrible, but it's not taking its toll on your morning drive just yet. You got your normal volume on I-12 westbound, starting back around Range Avenue, continuing all the way up to O'Neill Lane. So the stretch over the Amite River, basically connecting Denham to O'Neill, you're going to be slightly slower than normal. 10 westbound's looking great coming in from Ascension Parish. 10 eastbound coming in from West Baton Rouge, also fantastic. I-110's looking good in both directions as well. Both bridges are wide open on your surface streets. There's only one accident to look out for right now. That's Greenwell Springs Road at Oakville Boulevard. That is the only blip on the radar. Let's keep it that way. Budget yourself a couple of extra minutes and be safe in this weather. That's your look at traffic from the Shaw Bills Tire Traffic Center. .623 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. John, before we get to legally served with attorney Franz Borghardt, I got to go back to that Dylan Cruz cut there. As the apparently 3-man team for that was the Nats broadcast on the call there. Cruz gets an RBI, the only run the Nats will score all day long, and play just that end part again.
And that's the thing with him. It's not bat speed. It's not the ability to get to the ball. It's just letting the ball get to him.
That is totally Napoleon Dynamite's brother Kip, isn't it?
Oh, totally.
Hey,
Let's
do we have it side by side?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Your mom goes to college.
See, nailed it.
LaFonda is definitely the best thing that's ever happened to me.
All right, you know how we do it this time every week. He's been chatting online with babes all day long. It's legally served. Oh, what's happening, Franz? How are you?
I just walked into Napoleon Dynamite this morning. I love it.
Yeah,
Good morning.
I wasn't ready for that because when I was previewing the highlights before I had all the way up to that where the play-by-play guy calls the play, the color commentator says it's not an easy pitch to hit. I didn't even hear that before. It was like a Stefan moment where the first time I hear it is when it's live. So,
How do you feel about homeless people?
I feel bad for homeless people.
Right.
I do. I feel terrible for homeless people.
I think we should just put them in a bus, maybe cart them off to the parish prison. I mean, that's what the legislature wants to do, right?
Not at all what the legislature wants to do.
Tell me what the legislation is.
The
proposed legislation.
Per NOLA.com, a state Senate committee has advanced a bill that would make unauthorized camping illegal, a bid to tamp down on homeless encampments in Louisiana that drew impassioned criticism this week from advocates and New Orleans officials. It's Senate Bill 196. It's by Senator Robert Owen of Slidell. Camping on public property would be a felony on the second conviction, but the bill would also allow judges to create court programs dedicated to homelessness cases, which could aim to put defendants through drug and mental health programs instead of sending them to prison. Maybe
making them felons and putting them in the prisons is going to help them because it gives them, a cot and 3 meals. Okay, so question. Do we have encampments here?
Oh, God, yes.
Where do we have our encampments in Baton Rouge? I know in New Orleans where they are.
So they've been moving around a good bit. Right. Let's see.
Downtown?
I wouldn't call downtown encampments. And downtown is more like stragglers. You'll find somebody sleeping on a bench on North Boulevard, so for sure.
But
if you go under the North Boulevard overpass, you're going to find a handful.
Yeah. Like the way this is written, though, is the dude sleeping on the bench, like in camping? Is the dude sleeping underneath?
I don't think so. Okay. Let me read you the engrossed digest. A proposed law provides for legislative findings, including the critical need for the criminal justice system programs to assist individuals who are experiencing homelessness in order to reduce the incidence of substance abuse disorders, untreated medical health issues, destruction and disruption and use of public property, public health and safety issues, and crimes committed by those experiencing homelessness. It defines terms including.
So it has some good intentions, right?
No, it is a very well-intended law that's being vilified as if it were evil right out the blocks. I'm looking for the definition of an encampment in here
because encampment's pretty broad,
right? But so if I sit down on a park bench and I fall asleep, it's a gorgeous sun-drenched afternoon.
Well, I don't think you're the target.
And no, I'm not. But the scenario I'm setting up here is would I fall under the same description as, someone who goes to the park bench and like lays down,
maybe take some newspaper,
curls up in a good advocate. Yeah.
Does the advocate make a good blanket?
It doesn't make for much else.
Oh. They're obviously not a shoe sponsor. Point is.
He's on it this morning.
So point is, I have problems with this law.
Okay.
Be sure. I don't have a problem with the back end of this law where you're going to create court programs, help them out. And look, is the cause of our crime homeless people? I mean, some. Is this really where we want our police officers really like spending their time and energy? I mean, these are, as a homeowner, I get it, right? As a business owner, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want a homeless person sleeping underneath my awning at my business, right?
Right.
Well, do I care if I'm not there? I mean, like in the middle of the night? I mean, And look, I have an office downtown. I get it. I understand. I mean,
Okay, then let me ask this question: why wouldn't you just invite them in?
while I'm not there,
Yeah,
because I don't know that they're there.
well, I'm
Until-
just
So generally the way now look, I see the other side of it. The way I know that there are people that sleep in the parking lot at my office is the debris,
Mhm.
the remnants
Mhm.
of said individuals. I get it. I understand that this is an aesthetic law. I wonder, is this where we need to be spending our energy?
all right. When we come back, we got a break here for news, traffic, weather. When we come back, we're going to break this bill down a little bit further because it offers up a lot of good.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, hey, we'll continue next. He's Franz Borghardt. We do Legally Served every week.
Can I? I pose this question to you. Would you rather the legislature be working on this or appointing judges instead of election?
We'll get to that when we pivot,
Yep.
but legislatures don't normally appoint judges.
No, you have to change the law to allow them
No,
to be appointed.
no. Your executive branches appoint
Right.
judges.
Right.
Not
I'm aware.
Well, I just the legislative branch wouldn't do that.
They have to do the first step of making it that's the law, and it may require constitutional change.
Yeah.
Byron writes, maybe we can pay the homeless $1,000 to leave. Debbie talked yesterday. This could impact overnight tailgating parades. Tailgating, parades.
Yeah.
No. If you stay in an RV, it's not in camping. It's kind of the definition of in camping, right?
Right, but okay, most of the people, if you're talking about tailgating, they have a permit to be there.
Do you have a permit to park your car? I mean, you have to have a permit to park RV lots,
If
right?
you're tailgating for LSU, if you're west of Highland, yeah. Is it west? Yeah. West of Highland, you that's all permitted parking over there.
Mm-hmm.
So you have written permission to be there by the university.
To put a 10 by 10 tent up, do you need a permit? To put a 10 by 10 up on the
Depends on where you are on campus.
Let's say the parade ground. 10 by
Parade
10
grounds,
tent.
yes.
You need a permit.
You don't need a permit for the tent. You need a permit for the parking spot.
Right.
And the tent is there for fewer than 24 hours.
Yeah, that happened to a guy at the Strawberry Festival.
Well,
he was cooking some sausage, and I guess he just figured I could just pop up a tent here. He gave us a spot. He moved his chairs, let us park. Immediately right after, a woman came up with a clipboard. Do you have a permit to cook here? To be here?
Poncho,
I don't think
like right there.
if he was
Poncho ain't playing,
Man,
bro.
no, dude. Like, yeah,
They ain't
happened
just
right there in front of us.
They ain't just squeezing strawberries.
Yeah, man. I mean, I was appreciative of the spot, but I mean, he didn't even have a permit to be there himself. So,
you know who you need to get to be a show sponsor? The Sadvocate. I think that would be a great show sponsor. If I ever do Go Rouge again, I want the Sadvocate to help sponsor my show.
You should. I don't know if they have sponsor dollars, but you should definitely partner with them for content.
Oh yeah,
and have a Sadvocate segment. Which, by the way,
I had Baton Rouge Sucks on. Yeah, BR Sucks. Yeah, it was okay. Well, I was underwhelmed.
The satire was not as good as
No.
Sadvocate's fire on all cylinders. I was talking to Nancy about the possibility. There's room here.
Okay.
I just have to have enough time in my day to show what the sales package would look like, and then relaunching from there. I think 17-page bill.
Yeah, nothing's buried in there.
It's all. I mean, the legalese definitions of homelessness and whatnot.
You know, it's funny. Last week we were talking about biting people. This week we're talking about homeless people. Just, I don't really know where I was going with that, but you know, DQ was still a thing.
yeah, man. But yeah, man. But yeah, when I was working at Northern, man, we had a homeless guy who would sleep in the front of the building, and he would charge his phone all night, I guess. But then he knew when the store opened up, he would just pack his stuff and he would go.
There is a crime theft of utility.
Mm.
And generally you see that when like a tailgater plugs their
Yeah.
device into a outlet somewhere, or theft of a utility is like, hey, I don't want to pay for cable, so I'm going to splice cable.
Mm.
We used to tailgate behind the Episcopalian church on campus, right across the street from the Deke House, right across the street from Christ King. And when we
St.
upgraded, do what? Yeah,
St. Albans.
Yeah. I'm not saying we somehow got the Wi-Fi password so that we could stream all the games on Saturday, but we acquired. Someone may have gone to church, like gone to the church during the week, and like, hey, what's the password?
So we saw a photo. You and I are on a thread that we saw a photo of a dude holding the sign. I don't know what side of town that was on.
It said "need weed," and I thought it was on Bluebonnet.
Yeah, it was. I stand by my position that was a very ambiguous. Like, was he selling or was he soliciting? Don't know.
It's different if there's a period or a question mark after the end,
right? Or maybe an exclamation mark. I need weed.
Or just the general way.
Is Sherwood a homeless person problem? I know it's a crime problem in Sherwood.
Junkie problem.
Ah.
Which is different, and that's where I wanted to go with this. Is
sometimes
do you have to leave at 50? Okay. It's just all it is a yes or no. You don't have to feel bad about it.
I always feel bad. I feel bad.
I can't control that.
You can't control this.
I can't control how you feel. You're the only one who can control how you feel.
Happiness is a state of mind. It's an inside job, if you will.
This sentence means the same thing without the ha. More rain throughout the morning. Here's your full forecast from Emma Kate Cowan. There is a difference between a homelessness problem and a junkie problem.
But sometimes they're
the junkies at the Motel 6 are not homeless, but they're panhandling on the corner of 12 and Sherwood.
Okay.
Like that's you see the panhandlers and you assume homelessness.
I have less of a problem if you want to get rid of the panhandling, which it is, by the way, a crime. I think it's a misdemeanor crime, panhandling. Maybe an ordinance or something.
I think panhandling should be cracked down on a hell of a lot more for a couple of different reasons. In New Orleans, we've seen when you don't have your guard up for panhandlers, when you expect to see panhandlers, carjacking starts becoming a problem. Because I'm not on the lookout for who's standing there. I'm expecting someone to stand there. And when that person standing there pulls the gun and says, get out the car, now you get a different scenario. My other problem with panhandling is it's a public safety issue. How long before a junkie falls into the road and gets run over? It astounds me that it doesn't happen every day. 638 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. We got attorney Franz Borghardt in for Legally Served. We're talking about, right now we're talking about SB 196, which would essentially, I got to go back to the digest to get the shorter version, but take homeless folks, put them in a homeless court, and then find treatment for whatever it is that ails them and has them in their situation to begin with. Now, if there's persistence to it, the second time around, instead of going to a rehab facility or a mental health facility,
it's a felony.
It would be a felony.
Do they have a sentencing range in there? I know I'm asking you a whole bunch of questions in a bill.
It's a 17-page bill.
All right.
So,
do you think a homeless person's going to participate in a homeless court?
Well, I don't think they have they're compelled, aren't they?
Yeah, but are they?
Yeah.
I mean, how you compel them?
But where do you send the subpoena?
You give them a probation and you tell them, hey, you got to come to court every so often.
I would think so.
Yeah. They're living on the street.
I'm sure there are ways to do this. We have a greater homeless problem than a lot of people, a lot of cities.
Okay.
And it is problematic in a number of different ways. The first and foremost is their safety.
Okay.
All right? What we saw during the mini blizzard that we had, back, that was the mayor's first priority, was getting everybody off the street and into a shelter somewhere. Not the easiest thing to do.
Right.
We had Metro Councilman Daryl Hurst in here who was just beside himself over the idea of how many people denied the request to, hey, let me get you inside, get you to warmth, get you something to eat, put some covers over you for the night. And he said straight up, those people are going to die.
So part of the problem is, and this is reality, some of the homeless people are there by choice, and some of the homeless people they have severe mental health and or substance abuse issues.
Okay, so on that front, the substance abuse issues are a series of choices.
Correct.
Where the choice is no longer theirs, but it was at one point.
Sure.
It was at one point. The mental health issues, it's a whole different thing. And what I don't want to see is the perfect being the enemy of the good. Okay? If you could reduce the homeless population by any percentage at minimal cost to the overall taxpayer, shouldn't we be doing that?
Sure.
Is that not what we're called to do?
Well, I think the problem is this legislation falls into the category of best intentions.
Mm-hmm.
It's 17 pages.
Yes.
That's a big piece of legislation, my friend.
It is. Well, comparatively, not so much.
All right.
But
here's the thing. I think we just had it's not as simple as we're going to make it a crime and we're going to give them resources on the back end of the crime. We just had a city that rejected a tax to give the DA's office more money to help fight crime.
Damn good point.
So you're going to make legislation that is going to require resources both for the public defender's office because these people are poor, and the DA's office because they got to handle it, or city prosecutors. It could be city, municipal.
Sure.
It just I think this one needs to be vetted a little bit more. And look, yes, I can be hyperbolic and be like, blessed are the poor, except for in Louisiana. I get that this is a complex issue where I think these legislatures are really trying to the ones that are trying to enact this are really trying to help both the citizens that are not homeless and the people that are homeless.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know that this is the route.
And isn't that part of the problem that we have in Louisiana though? Is there's always a reason for it not to be the route.
Okay.
I'm legitimately asking, is that when we try to do things,
you're going to have to get police officers to enforce the law.
That's correct.
You're going to have prosecutors that have the time and bandwidth to enforce this law. You're going to have to set up a court that's funded, maybe through federal or state money, right? Because, by the way, who normally pays for court costs? The citizen that can pay for court costs.
Oh, yeah.
Do homeless people have the ability to pay for it? They're indigent by definition.
Right.
Now, they may be self-imposed indigent by making decisions, but...
So the bill is by Bob Owen, senator from he's from Slidell. I think his district covers a good chunk of St. Charles Parish as well. I wonder though if we're not conflating homelessness with panhandlers. Now
I have different feelings about panhandlers.
Same. I have a lot more empathy for the homeless than I do the panhandler.
Mm-hmm.
A lot more empathy.
The dude that's sleeping under a causeway or underneath a bridge, minding his or her own business,
right?
Versus the person that has the sign who's on Corporate Boulevard.
Someone who is asking for a couple dollars at the intersection, and you give them a sandwich and they throw it on the ground. Or that person is not seeking help. That person is seeking drugs.
I think also you have a stronger argument for safety issues, both to the person.
Huge. I don't know why it's not a bigger problem than it is consequence wise.
Well, it's a misdemeanor crime. Right. You want them to stop. And I suspect what happens is the police officer says, hey, Susie, hey, Timmy, stop. They don't want to have to arrest them. They don't want to have to give them a summons. And they either stop or they basically don't.
I didn't mean consequence wise in the courtroom. I meant consequence wise in real life. You're talking about dangerous intersections on a daily basis.
Well,
where I'm curious as to how many accidents are caused by people swerving around them and then bumping into another car instead.
Let's make it a real life example in Baton Rouge.
Let's go.
Trader Joe's parking lot.
Very good.
Panhandler, maybe. Mental health issues,
definitely.
Maybe. Yes.
Yeah.
Shooting. That guy got convicted.
Mm-hmm.
That guy, in fact, if I'm not mistaken, he got some jail time.
Yeah. Now, would anything have been solved by this law? Probably not in this scenario. But that's not the bite of the apple we're talking about.
It's a reality. Safety is a reality.
Safety is reality.
Right.
Yes. Because your perceived safety is based off of a number of different factors that cross the streams with the homelessness. So
fun times.
I know.
You know what else that our legislature, and I know we don't have time to really deep dive into
We
this.
got 5 full minutes here.
There was an article that came out about a watchguard group or watchdog group.
Yes.
Proposing that Louisiana move to a judicial appointment system for state judges and I guess municipal as well.
Yep.
Versus what we do now, which is elected.
So this article came out from WAFB. It was Rafael Goyeneche over at the Metropolitan Crime Commission. He says that it might be worthwhile. As it stands right now, yes, judges are elected, but in more than 30 other states, they are appointed based on their merits. The WAFB connected that recommendation with Judge Tiffany Foxworth Roberts, saying special investigators recommend Judge Tiffany Foxworth Roberts be removed from the bench after allegations surfaced that she engaged in misconduct before she was elected. And then it goes on to tout their own investigative team from there.
Statistically, do we change the law because of 2 perceived?
Judge Ebony Johnson Rose is the other one that was in the article.
I'm dancing carefully around what I'm going to say. They're not bad apples.
Dive in.
They're not bad apples, but 2 perceived bad apples because Tiffany Foxworth has not been suspended yet. Ebony Rose Johnson's coming back. Ebony Rose Johnson's coming back to the bench. Do you change an entire system because of 2 judges? Or are those just glaring examples of this is why we need to change what we're doing?
Interesting, because you're throwing this point out while at the same time, I know you're in favor of appointing judges versus electing them.
No.
Really?
No. I see both sides as imperfect. I remember, I play in federal court often. Federal court judges are appointed by who?
Elected officials.
The executive branch.
You're kicking the can.
Right.
Yes, the executive branch appoints elected. Appoints the judicial.
With the theory that they're neutral, that you're going to appoint the most qualified, educated, qualified individuals.
Yes. So let's zoom out here real quick and then zoom back in on the most august body of judges there is. That would be the U.S. Supreme Court. Is there anybody out there right now that doesn't believe the Supreme Court has a political bent based off of who they were appointed by?
Sure. It's imperfect. Either appointing them or electing them, they're both imperfect systems. I do like the idea, though, of you will likely get a more qualified judiciary if they are appointed by whom? The governor? By a judicial commission? Like, look. What I'm going to say is extremely egotistical of me and is going to lack total humility, but that shouldn't be shocking to anybody who listens. I would be a candidate for judge as someone who has practiced nearly 20 years, who's taught, who has been a trial attorney. I would be a candidate for an appointed judge. I might never be able to get elected.
Right.
It's a popularity contest because we clearly don't always elect the most qualified individuals. That said, who appoints?
Elected officials.
Yeah.
So you say, not you say, but the argument goes, you want to appoint judges as opposed to electing them so that they're not beholden to those who donate to their campaigns.
And theoretically more qualified.
Theoretically more qualified, yes. But there's no receipts you could show that show they're more qualified.
Well, you would assume. It's an assumption. And I'm using the Supreme Court as an example in federal judges. You would think that you're picking the best of the best. You don't have to politically agree with them, but you're thinking that you're picking the best of the best. Think about the people in our jurisdiction that are appointed federal judges. Judge Shelley Dick, Judge Johnny DeGravel, Judge Brian Jackson. We had someone that was appointed to New Orleans judiciary, Daryl Papillon.
Yeah.
These are highly qualified human beings and lawyers to be judges. Now, we don't have to always agree with them.
Sometimes we very rarely agree with them. And a lot of times that is based off of their politics when they were appointed.
Or they're making decisions that are quote unquote legal, but not popular. That's the dynamic that we don't always, following the law doesn't always make us feel warm and fuzzy. I got 1 minute.
Yeah.
Maybe 3.
Well,
2. 1.
We got about 30 seconds left.
Okay.
This would take a monumental this would be a monumental undertaking, though.
Yes.
It would be huge to like
you might need to have a constitutional change. I mean, we don't want to change any of our constitution, like have a convention or anything.
He's attorney Franz Borghardt, joins us at this time every week for Legally Served. Always appreciate you, brother.
Love you guys.
Love you too. It's time for Your Money Now on Talk 107.3. Later, bro. Thank you. 6:55 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Thanks again to attorney Franz Borghardt for hopping on for Legally Served. This is a rare occasion. I get to cross over a 60-second endorsement with actual news this morning. FlyBTR, flybtr.com. I remind you every day about the Baton Rouge Metro Airport. Well, with the weather, it's a good opportunity for me to remind you that if you have a flight coming into or going out of the Baton Rouge Metro Airport, hit up flybtr.com before you head on down to the airport to make sure that everything's on time. And with that, I can tell you this morning, everything is not on time. In fact, some flights that were scheduled to come in last night have been pushed back to later on this morning, if not this afternoon. A flight that was supposed to come in from Atlanta is now going to be here after 9 o'clock this morning. A flight that was supposed to come in from Dallas won't be here until early this afternoon, just after 12:30, in fact. And on the departure side, the weather, I assume the weather, possibly some other factors have caused a lot of problems out at the airport this morning. In fact, so far we've had 3 flights canceled. Oh, no, check that. 4 flights canceled, 2 more delayed out at the Baton Rouge Metro Airport. Next flight that's scheduled to go out goes to Houston, Texas. As of right now, it is scheduled to be on time, taking off at 7:15. We will continue to monitor throughout if there are any further updates or closures out at the airport, which, I mean, terrible day for this to happen because it's Real ID Day as well, which, by the way, Matthew Boudreaux from the Office of Motor Vehicles is going to join us at 7:15 to talk about the real-life effects of the Real ID. In the meanwhile, let's get back to the weather real quick. What are we looking at here before we get to we'll have our forecast from Emma Kate Cowan in just a little bit. But, man, I'm looking at the future radar or the next, few hours and whatnot. Y'all, lunchtime's gonna be rough, very, very rough. And look, I'm a morning show guy, so my lunch might run a little earlier. But being out on the road around, I don't know, anywhere between 11 and 12, very, very ill-advised at this point. Very ill-advised at this point. Now that might change as the morning wears on, but we will be in the thick of some yellows and reds, technical term, yellows and reds in the middle of that. So we are watching, we are monitoring. To go along with it. Now, I have a question for our Facebook Live audience. Normally, I'll throw these out during the break, but let me put it out to everybody. With the rain we're seeing today, do you feel like there's less of a sense of urgency because school wasn't canceled? Let us know over on Facebook Live. We're live on Facebook and YouTube every single day, courtesy of the folks over at Lake Urgent Care. Do you feel like there's less of a sense of urgency with the current weather because school wasn't canceled? I just want some feedback on that because I think the back end is they ran out of weather days here in EBR. You can only cancel so many days and still have a full school year. At some point along the way, you think back over the course of the last school year as we're, the school year starts to come to a close. You look over the course of the school year and every time we hear it, back in my day, we didn't have school canceled for rain. Yeah, we get that, but also you don't want the kids standing by the bus stop in the middle of a monsoon. Now, that being said, hindsight being 2020, did we have some school days this past school year, the school year that's just now wrapping up, where honestly, they could have gone in? Where it was, it's just, there's some thunder out there right now and a light drizzle here in downtown. That's all we got right now. That's not to say it won't crank up again, but that's what we're looking at right now. Side-by-side comparison, and like I said, hindsight being 2020, we probably could have banked, we probably could have literally saved for a rainy day. All right, it is Real ID Day. Matthew Boudreaux from the Office of Motor Vehicles is going to join us at 7:15. Also, legislative sessions in full swing. Lana Venable from the Louisiana Lawsuit Abuse Watch. Actually, she's got some new numbers for us that I can't wait to dive into. We'll have both of those conversations in the 7 o'clock hour. Right now, here comes news. I go grab something off the printer. I shall be right back.
All right, Galen. So the word unalived, I think the reason why it's used, especially on social media and things, because I guess it doesn't want to get flagged by using the word dead. I don't know if that will flag certain videos or things like that. So I guess unalived is kind of go under the radar, so to speak, on social media. So I think that's why that word is becoming more common. Although no, it is not technically a word at all. But I think that's the reason for it.
7:05, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Hour 2 coming your way right now. Brian here with you. John LaBeouf producing. We got a busy hour this hour. It is Real ID Day. What does that actually mean for you and me out on the streets? Can we get tickets for that? Is it, are we jamming up airports as a result? We'll talk with Matthew Boudreaux from the Office of Motor Vehicles in our next segment. Also this hour, the folks at the Louisiana Lawsuit Abuse Watch, they've got some new numbers, and we're going to dive into them as the work being done at the Capitol right now. It does have purpose, and actions have consequences, financial consequences. We'll talk about all that with Lana Venable coming up at 7:35. Also in the 8 o'clock hour, we're going to visit the ongoing saga of the Mid-Barataria Sediment Diversion Project. Kristi Trail from Restore the Mississippi River Delta slated to join us at 8:15 as that back and forth continues, and then we'll wrap up with Congresswoman Julia Letlow, little DC Current presented by LABI. Right now, though, as we battle our way through the storm, let's get the top stories and trending.
Number 5.
Sandbags, if you need them. I'm sorry, John, I'm having a problem. Is it me or is it everything else is loud? Like, is my volume sounding normal to you?
Yeah.
Okay. There's something weird in the system there. Because like, in order for me to hear me, everything else is going to be blasting through.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really need to hear me, though. So
yeah.
We'll if it sounds good on your end, we'll roll with it. Okay. We'll roll with it. Sandbags are available with all the rainfall that's expected over the next couple of days, potentially causing flooding in the capital region. Here in East Baton Rouge Parish, Breck Parks are where you're going to find the sandbags, specifically Airline Highway Fairgrounds, Olson Park, Baker Park, Cadillac Street Park, Doyle's Bayou Park, Flannery Road Park, Hartley Bay at Gardner Park, Lovett Road Park, and Memorial Stadium.
Number 4.
Charges have been dropped against a former Baton Rouge police officer who was arrested twice in 1 month on sexual assault charges. DeMichael Robertson was formally charged with third-degree rape after a woman reported to Zachary PD that Robertson forced her to have sex with him back in December of 2022. Those charges have now gone away.
Number 3.
Attorney General Liz Murrill has sued the city of Baker and its council members, claiming the council violated the open meetings law. The lawsuit was filed on Friday. It alleges that the Baker City Council held a special meeting on March 3rd to discuss whether the city's attorney, Ken Fabry, met the requirements for the position, as he did not reside in the city.
Number 2.
Baton Rouge welcomed 9 million visitors in 2024. Let's talk a little tourism here. That is up from 8.8 million in 2023. Those 9 million visitors collectively spent $1.7 billion. This being sampled from Visit Baton Rouge's impact report for last year. That is a data-driven look at the local tourism industry's performance over 2024.
Number 1.
All right, we are under a flood watch in not just East Baton Rouge Parish, but West Baton Rouge, Ascension, Assumption, Iberville, East Feliciana, Livingston, Point Capee, St. Helena, St. James, St. Mary, Tangemo, and West Feliciana parishes. The tornado watch expired overnight, so fortunately, that is in our rear view mirror. What a flood watch means is that conditions may develop to lead to flash flooding, and we all know how dangerous flash flooding can be. You know the tagline, turn around, don't drown, as we have numerous places in Baton Rouge where, you know the hot spots, right? Where normally we see flooding when we get... Sharon Weston Broom used to call them the thunderstorm on steroids. I think we can keep her naming, her glossing of that, to be sure. 3 to 5 inches of rain is likely throughout the capital area all the way between now and Thursday night. 3 to 5 is likely, up to 10 is possible.
Well, the conclave is slated to begin at the Vatican today to determine who the next pope will be. The first vote is expected by 3 p.m. Eastern time.
Okay, so we're looking at 2 votes a day.
Yep.
Until we get white smoke.
That's it.
So, I guess it's time to get dialed in. You know, as I don't know, I'm not going to pretend to know anything about the different cardinals that are. You know, I feel like everybody watching the Kentucky Derby on Saturday You know how for the Kentucky Derby, everybody pretends to know horse racing,
Oh, of course.
right?
Of course.
We're all going to pretend to know about a bunch about the different cardinals and whatnot. Although the only difference here being, I don't think I can find odds on the next Pope.
Right. There's a good amount of runners up, right? I mean, there's
It's 133 cardinals, but
Yeah.
every grown male unmarried Catholic is available as like
right.
the credentials to become Pope, or the bar is very, very low for the actual job description. It's just, getting elevated like that is 133 cardinals, I believe is the number. Yeah.
And that decision is going to be made today, just to confirm.
No.
No.
The decision
They're
isn't
just
necessarily going to be
meeting
made today. The meeting begins that they are locked in
Yes.
as of today. So we will, it's however long it takes to get to a decision. That however long it takes is however long it takes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. In other news, President Trump is expected to announce that the U.S. will begin referring to the Persian Gulf as the Arabian Gulf, or the Gulf of Arabia,
Oh my God.
while visiting Saudi Arabia next week.
Oh, finally.
Yeah.
Finally, he's doing something that makes a difference in my life.
Right.
Finally.
I know.
Finally, those gas prices are going to start dropping. Finally, my paycheck's going to go a little bit further. My taxes have been lightened.
Yeah. That's it. Right.
I just don't understand it. I support a lot, but that's got to be stuff that actually has an effect on our actual lives. And I said the same thing when they changed the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America.
I mean,
and at the very least, that can inspire some level of pride within country, right?
Of course.
You can say, it's the Gulf of America. I'm an American. I support that.
That's right.
Okay, cool. That's at least that has that. This has nothing to do with anything. This is just saying, hey, your name's John. I'm going to call you Steve.
Right. Why? Well, just
I feel like it.
Yeah.
I get to name things.
Exactly.
I get to name things that have nothing to do with us.
All right.
Steve.
Oh, man. Hey,
did Steve tell you that?
Yeah. Hey, keeping with President Trump, he has declared 2 new national holidays, the end of World War I on November 11th and the end of World War II on May 8th.
So we get to take the day off tomorrow?
Right. Well, not really.
Oh. Half day?
No.
No? Can I come in an hour late?
No.
So basically tomorrow's going to be exactly like May 8th of last year?
Right.
Okay.
And just treat it like any other day.
Yeah. Well, so what we're celebrating here is America's victories, right?
Yes.
World War II would be tomorrow, May 8th, 1945. And then November 11th, of course, is Armistice Day, the day that World War I ended. But it's not going to mean a day off.
It doesn't.
All right.
Unfortunately,
so I need the president to go back to work. I need him to stop renaming seas that have nothing to do with us and determine how do we celebrate these victories.
Right.
I want a top-down push on what to do on May 8th.
Right.
Trying to think. I want to workshop this a little bit.
Yeah.
We beat the Germans.
Yes.
And there's nothing more American than a hot dog.
Yeah.
So on May 8th, no kraut on your hot dog.
That's good. All right.
Can we start there?
We'll take it.
All right.
We'll start small.
Tomorrow, everybody has a hot dog with no sauerkraut.
First step is acknowledging the day. Second step is celebrating with.
Yeah, I know. But like the second I say, hey, John, it's May 8th, the president's like, get back to work.
Yeah. So much for that.
Well, all right. Today is Real ID Day. And that's it's a topic that I don't think a lot of people have fully hit head on. I believe 1.2 million Louisiana drivers have adopted the new Real ID. Let's talk about it next with Matthew Boudreaux from the Office of Motor Vehicles. Galen says, what is it with the new word unalived? That ain't a word.
So
and then he says,
under the assumption that, was it for social media that
it was
flagging dead or killed or anything? That's what we were
social media specifically has, they have to look for threats. They have to look for, not threats against others necessarily as much as violence. I mean, suicide as well. So that's why the word unalive came around. It's because suicide and murder get flagged. Galen says Shelly Dick is an example of a system failure. 100%. .716 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Hey, quick check back into the airport. When I was telling you about when we were updating the weather at the end of last hour, I said the next scheduled flight out of BTR was for 7:15 a.m. We're seeing what weather effects they were having out at the airport. Well, that flight is to Houston, Texas, and it has departed. So, yeah, they were able to get the plane up in the air and get moving along. That was the first plane to depart this morning. Everything prior to that had been canceled for one reason or another. Next scheduled flight at BTR is at 9:30 a.m. also to Houston, Texas. Now, the weather might be a problem at the airport, but a problem at a number of airports around the country this morning is the real ID. Is it jamming people up? Are we jamming up lines at TSA and whatnot? What are the real life ramifications of this new program? Joining us now, Matthew Boudreaux from the Office of Motor Vehicles. How are you, sir?
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me on, Brian.
No, glad to have you back on here. It's been a minute since you've been on, and I want to say the last time you were on, it might have been no. It was about updating databases, I think. But we've talked about the real ID before, so since today is that the so-called deadline, which let's talk about what the real ID is, who needs it, and what changes as of today.
Yeah, I like to use the word enforcement date and not deadline.
Sure.
It's been a little misleading, I think, for Louisiana residents. They think if you don't have a state-issued real ID license or identification card by May 7th, that you won't be able to get one, which is just simply not true. Our offices and our partners, public tag agents, will continue to issue real ID credentials past May 7th. But yes, the enforcement date is today. The federal government, set these standards following 9/11, and they wanted to make state-issued licenses more reliable and standardized across the country. Mm-hmm. They pushed the deadline back several times, and here we are. So they're sticking with it. The Homeland Security Chief, Kristi Trail, said yesterday that even those who may not have a real ID license or another ID, they'll still be able to fly. They'll be pulled out of line, and they'll try and make it as seamless as possible. But they're going to make sure that they verify that person who's getting on that plane is who they say they are.
Rewind the clock. How did the real ID get started?
Okay, so real ID, again, goes back to after 9/11. It was passed by Congress in 2005 after the 9/11 Commission recommended that the federal government set security standards for states to issue driver's license and ID cards.
Mm-hmm. Since that time, most folks have had to re-up their driver's license probably twice. Why does it take 16 years to get to an enforcement date?
Yeah, not sure. I mean, that's a federal government thing, not us. We in Louisiana have been issuing real ID licenses since 2016.
Really?
So we're talking, almost 10 years. You've been able to come into an office or to one of the public tag agents and get real ID ready. Unfortunately, and we expected it, we've seen an influx of people coming in this past month, and in particular this past week. We've been flooded with people who waited to the last minute And unfortunately, there have been long lines and people have had to wait. But, the good news is, again, if you're not getting on a plane anytime soon, there's no rush, book an appointment, come in when it's, conducive to you and your schedule, get you in and out, bring in the proper documentation and get Real ID ready.
Okay. So just personally, I re-upped my driver's license in 2021 and I don't have a Real ID. Was this, were we given an option either or?
Yeah, it's not mandatory in Louisiana. Some states do require. The difference in the actual ID?
Okay, so when you're going into the Office of Motor Vehicles and you're going to get your driver's license renewed, was it cheaper, easier? What was the difference that would get somebody to have? And it says it right on my driver's license, not for federal identification. So correct. How does one end up on one path and not down the path that we obviously are all going to need?
Yeah. So again, it's optional in Louisiana. So people have the option to because there are alternatives. So if you wanted to use your passport instead of the state issued ID, you could use your passport. You can use a military ID. You can use a TWIC card. There are alternatives to that. But when you would come in, if you wanted to upgrade to Real ID, the federal government would require you to provide either a birth certificate or passport, and we could verify your social security number verbally, and then 2 pieces of mail and proofs of residency, just verifying that address. You could be a driver's license, a W-2, a bank statement, something like that.
Okay, let's dispel a couple myths real quick. We're talking with Matthew Boudreaux from the Office of Motor Vehicles about the Real ID. This is primarily affecting people at the airport, nowhere else. Like, there's not going to be any Real ID checkpoints on the ground by police, are there?
No, the other, I guess, most commonly visited place would be a federal building or the nuclear power plant. Not sure how often people visit that, but those buildings can require certain documentation. Again, that's set by Department of Homeland Security. They just recommend you call those federal buildings ahead of time, see what type of identification they're going to require moving forward now that we're past the enforcement date.
So as far as just day-to-day travel is concerned, your normal life, this shouldn't affect you.
Absolutely.
Right. It's just, if you're looking at, if you don't fly and you don't visit nuclear power plants very often, you can just go about your day. And let's say you, make an illegal U-turn or something, and then you get pulled over by a police officer. Your normal Louisiana driver's license gets it done for your day-to-day operation of your life.
Absolutely. That's correct. Again, the Real ID is only for federal purposes. And as you mentioned on your card, not for federal identification. So yes, still valid. I don't know if Real ID, if that was been the name that I picked, just seems again to be a little misleading and confusing because people think, oh, well, the ID I have is not real. Again, not true. But so yes, if you have a license, yours, as you mentioned, still valid. Again, as long as it's not suspended or something like that, but certainly can use it to drive, to buy alcohol, do the things that you need an ID to do.
Yes. The term Real ID makes it feel like everything else would be a fake ID. And well, we haven't needed those for years, have we, Matthew?
That's very true.
I wanted just to make sure we have it for everybody. Let's run down the requirements for someone to make an appointment, what they need before they go, so they don't get down there and have to go back a second time. So give us the lowdown. You make the appointment, and what do you need to bring?
Yeah. So expresslane.org. That's our official website. Go there. We have a Real ID checklist. You can step by step. It just breaks it down what documents in case you don't have, birth certificate. You could have some other options, and then it goes all the way through. Tells you, hey, your Real ID ready. These are the documents you need: birth certificate or passport, 2 pieces of mail proving your address are the most common. Again, there are some alternatives there in the process if you don't have those. Also, while you're on the website, I just highly recommend you have a driver's license status check. Just make sure you don't have any flags or blocks, suspensions on your license. That way you don't waste a trip to the office. You want to get those squared away before you head in. And then, again, book an appointment if you wish. It's been a very good, efficient process for us. 41 of our field offices accept appointments. So whenever it fits your schedule, come on in, get Real ID ready.
I actually just got one more question messaged into me here. What about interstate road travel? Like will my Louisiana driver's license be sufficient if I get pulled over in Texas?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
This is for domestic air travel.
Yeah.
You still need a passport to fly overseas. So, that doesn't affect it either. Domestic air travel, federal buildings, nuclear power plants.
Last one for you. Do you need a real ID to get a passport now?
Say that one more time.
The last one for you. Do you need a real ID to get a passport now?
No.
Okay.
I don't believe that's true. Yes.
But basically, you need the same documentation to get the passport that you need to get the real ID.
Correct.
So. All right. We appreciate the update. I mean, a lot of headlines leading up to today. I appreciate you sifting through it for us.
All right. Thanks, Brian. I appreciate it.
Always. He's Matthew Boudreaux with the Office of Motor Vehicles. Sorry, just double checking messages to make sure I didn't miss anything from Matthew right there. A lot more headlines than real life applications. I mean, obviously, if you fly regularly, you've gotten many alerts, warnings, heads up, that sort of thing. I do appreciate the fact that he said he prefers enforcement date over deadline. Deadline makes it sound like it goes away. Enforcement date means, although enforcement date does still make it seem like you're doing something illegal if you don't have it, but only if you're doing what you need it for. So anyway, thanks to Matthew for that. If you missed it, it'll be available on demand at talk1073.com after the show is over with this morning. In fact, all of our interviews are available at talk1073.com, courtesy of the folks over at Lake Urgent Care. All right, we got a minute before we hit news here at the bottom of the hour. We will have your full forecast on the back end of this. I did want to check in with weather one more time before we hit news. Before that, though, I want to send out another heartfelt thank you to our amazing listeners because of your generosity. The 2025 Dreams Come True Radiothon presented by the Baton Rouge Clinic. Within it, we raised an incredible $15,000 to help grant dreams for local kids facing life-threatening illnesses. By the way, a special shout out to Lewis Mechanical, Action Industries, Patient Plus, Subaru of Baton Rouge, Service Chevy, Luba, Duplessis Pool Builders, and once again, our title sponsor, the Baton Rouge Clinic, for making this possible. So from all of us at Talk 107.3 FM, I know I was asking you on a daily basis to make your contributions. And I also know, because I was shown the numbers from time to time, I know that you responded in kind, and it just thank you from the bottom of our hearts that you helped make some dreams come true this year. All right, 728, Talk 107.3 FM. We're going to talk with Lana Venable from the Louisiana Lawsuit Abuse Watch in our next segment. We're going to dive into the legislative session for sure. Before that, though, the weather has been the main story of the morning and will continue to be so throughout the morning. I'm just here in the studio. We can only go with what we've got around us, right? Where we're at right now in the storm, as far as what's passing over us, we're not going to be done with this whole line. It looks like it's moving basically from west to east. We're not going to be done with it until after lunch today. And it's looking like, while we might be getting some lighter portions of it right now, once you get through morning drive and honestly almost to lunchtime around 11 o'clock or so, it's looking like this will ramp back up again. So maybe not so much with the thunder and lightning, but the impact and frequency of the rain looks like it's going to be a little bit heavier. Expect that thunder and lightning to continue through the next hour or so before it scales back to just rain after that. Emma Kate Cowan will have your full forecast in about 5 minutes. In the meanwhile, got to remind you about the folks over at Vex European. Check them out online at vexeuropean.com. VEX. V is in Vinny. Vinny and his team over at Vex European want to help take care of your European vehicle. I want to say your European vehicle. I mean, you will be paired with a master level technician who knows how to service your make of vehicle. Mercedes, Jaguar, BMW, Land Rover, Audi, Ferrari, Porsche. They've got you covered. Check them out online at vexeuropean.com. Look for your make of vehicle. Before you schedule your appointment, hit that little specials tab. See if we can't save you $100 on your first visit. I say that with confidence because I know we can. You can save $100 on your first visit. Hit the specials tab, then set your appointment over at vexeuropean.com. Conclave gets underway later on today. ABC News will have that and a whole lot more right here before we get you to our local news, traffic, and weather on Talk 107.3. That's because nobody smokes crack anymore. That's a win. I forgot to mention that in sports, didn't I? And you go grab something else off the printer. What? Cool. Ah. Got blocked. All right, we know what the rest of the morning drive is going to look like. What's the rest of the forecast going to look like? Here's Emma Kate Cowan. .738 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Coming up next hour, we got Congresswoman Julia Letlow, little DC Current presented by LABI. Also next hour, we're going to talk about the Mid-Barataria Sediment Diversion Project. Kristi Trail from Restore the Mississippi River Delta going to join us as well. Right now, though, let's dial it back into the legislative session. We talk about legal reform. We talk about tort reform quite often. Why? Because it costs us money, you and me. Average taxpayer. There's a price tag on this, not just in terms of what we physically have to pay in our taxes, not just in terms of what we might have to pay out in a courtroom, but in terms of an overall tort tax, and our overall economy suffers as well. Let's talk about this. We got Lana Venable with the Louisiana Lawsuit Abuse Watch with us. Lana, welcome back. How are you?
Hey, Brian. Good morning. I'm great. How are you?
I'm great as well. Let's talk about the tort tax real quick. Y'all have new numbers out. Break it down for us.
We do, in fact. Every year, the Citizens Against Lawsuit Abuse issues a report on the impact of lawsuit abuse on every state in the country. So that report this year for Louisiana, surprisingly, is not good. What they found is over the last year, nearly 40,000 jobs were lost in the state. Every single resident of Louisiana paid a hidden tort tax of about $1,000. Total income losses of $2.9 million, all due to the impacts of lawsuit abuse in Louisiana. Those are all the things that have been attributed to our broken civil justice system.
How do they come to those numbers?
So the organization works with a group called the Perryman Group in Texas, and they use a formula. I'm not exactly sure what the formula is. It's detailed in the report. But they use a specific formula to come up with these numbers using lots of other numbers as a basis. And these are the numbers that they've come up with, which, honestly have been, roughly the same over the past several years. We've seen some slight ebbs and flows in the numbers, but overall, they've just not been good for the past several years. So obviously we need to change this and restore some balance and some fairness to our civil justice system.
We're talking with Lana Venable from Louisiana Lawsuit Abuse Watch about the latest numbers coming out on what our overall quote unquote tort tax is. Lana, can you give us some examples of what the cost is? Like, let's start in the New Orleans area and then we'll move over to Baton Rouge. What are the costs in like one particular metro area?
Sure. We actually drilled down a little bit to find out what it's costing specifically in those two major metros in the state. Mm-hmm. In New Orleans, residents are paying, it's costing more than $1.6 billion in personal income annually, a loss of nearly 22,000 jobs specifically in the New Orleans metro. And actually that tort tax that we talked about earlier is costing over $2,000 per person in New Orleans, so more than double the state average in New Orleans.
What about here in Baton Rouge?
Here in Baton Rouge, the numbers are a little bit better. Losses of more than $570 million in personal income, nearly 7,800 jobs lost every year, and the tort tax is in line with the state average of about $1,000 per person.
So the 1.6 billion in New Orleans, the half a billion here, half a billion plus here in Baton Rouge. Where do those numbers come from? Is that just a matter of settlements and cases?
Well, Brian, there's a formula that the report author uses. He does these types of studies around the country for various organizations. And when you look at the lawsuit abuses across the state, there's a system that he uses to factor in those numbers. He actually arrives at these massive numbers that are impacting Louisiana residents, they're impacting our economy, our jobs across the board. It's really hard to see, I think, when you look at when we talk about lawsuit abuse and the impacts of our civil justice system, but this is really a way scientifically that breaks down how that really impacts each and every one of us and impacts our state economy. You know, we talk a lot about insurance, which is clearly one big glaring example of these abuses, but there are so many more. You know, in Louisiana, we're seeing nuclear verdicts that are on the rise. Those are verdicts of more than $10 million that are made in a single case. And those, you know, in many cases we see as exorbitant, easy for me to say, as exorbitant because, you know, the system is really designed to make people whole, but not to generate a windfall in some of these cases. And so when we see those kinds of exorbitant verdicts, those costs are passed down to all of us in all of these many nuanced ways that we may not see every day, but we are all paying the price. And so this is what we mean when we say that in Louisiana, we all literally are paying the price for lawsuit abuse.
We're talking with Lana Venable from Louisiana Lawsuit Abuse Watch. You mentioned those nuclear verdicts, Lana, and you'll have some of them as a result of, you know, things that happen on our roads, but also here in Louisiana, we have to take the coastal lawsuits into account as well. How much do those cases, those ongoing, lifelong ongoing trials affect our numbers?
Yes, Brian, those cases are huge. I'm glad you mentioned that. So as you noted earlier this year, just in March, the first of those 41 coastal lawsuits was tried in Plaquemines Parish, and that resulted in just a staggering verdict of $745 million in damages. And in fact, you know, this is exactly what we hope to not see, really targeting one industry with a massive verdict. This has actually also been touted as a model for similar litigation in other states and even in other countries. So we don't want to be setting the bar for the most that you can sue for an industry or a single entity for here in Louisiana. You know, that's really bad business. That's an example of how our civil justice environment is continuing to become more aggressive and more hostile to businesses as well as consumers. So not a message that we want to send. And just kind of another point there, if I can, you know, what we don't hear about is what the trial lawyers are making in those verdicts, you know, and what they stand to gain. So that's also a significant part of this. You know, there are the damage awards, but we don't often get to see in detail how much of that is going to the actual plaintiff versus how much is going back to the trial lawyer.
Well, and I mean, these trials have been going on for so long. We've literally seen law firms hand off from father to son like it's the family business in suing the oil companies. You have to assume that, how do I put this nicely? The settlement has to be enough to where they no longer want to work hourly, right?
Well, and Brian, when you think about it, I mean, that's a good point. When you think about it, this is the first of 41.
Right.
And the very first one is a $745 million damage award. Their ask was far more than that, and that was what the jury settled on. I mean, I believe this is going to be appealed, but, you know, again, this is the first one. So this is a harbinger. It's a bellwether. So, you know, companies are looking at this. You know, companies looking at doing business in Louisiana are looking at this, and this is the opposite of the open for business sign. This is, you know, the stay away from Louisiana if you're a business sign. You know, and when you add to that, you look at all the advertising that happens in Louisiana, you know, it's pretty amazing. And I have a number on that as well in terms of the advertising in Louisiana on another study. But just during the 18-month period from January 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024, that 18-month period, trial lawyers spent an eye-popping $66.3 million on more than 1.43 million advertisements. TV, print, radio, digital. We all see it. We hear it every day. We're inundated with it. And the reason that I think we're inundated with it, it's clearly extremely expensive, but obviously it works.
Oh, absolutely it works. All right, because you're flooded with it. Because you can be top of mind, to be sure. And that's what they're looking for right there. And this is going back from the coastal lawsuits to the injury attorneys or the accident, the trial lawyers that we're talking about on the roads. Just being top of mind makes all the difference in the world. But going back to the coastal lawsuits, you're talking about that $700+ million being the benchmark here. Lana, everything's a sports analogy with me, right?
Right.
I compare this to, there's 41 other suits still out there. I compare this to having like a couple of NFL quarterbacks who are in a contract year the same year, and two are going to hold out until the first one signs, so they know they're going to sign for more than that. Like, you could see this number and just know that everybody else is now using this as the baseline and not the top of the ladder.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right, Brian. I think that's a great analogy. And while obviously, a civil justice system, a healthy civil justice system exists to provide a framework so that, we can address wrongs and seek redress for injuries or damages that are the fault of others. That's what our system was founded on. But here in Louisiana, we've been out of balance for a very, very long time.
Yes.
The absolute insurance crisis that we're facing is the most glaring symptom, I think, of that people feel every single day. But, these are all examples of how it goes so much deeper. And, we talk a lot about how this litigation has been ingrained in our culture, with jackpot justice. And, it's really become a way of thinking here in Louisiana as, I'm first not going to call my insurance company. First, I'm going to call a lawyer. Like, I'm not even going to try to go through the process first, and we need to really work to change that mindset. And in the defense of the trial bar, they're working within the rules of the system
100%.
as it stands today.
Yes.
So that's why we're really working to change that system. And it's really important that everyone in Louisiana understands that all of these effects trickle down to every single one of us.
We got 1 minute left with Lana Venable from Louisiana Lawsuit Abuse Watch. And within that, Lana, there's a package of, it's a whole package of bills. And you can't blame the opponents to the bills. Those who like the system the way it is, they divide and conquer. They'll look at each individual bill and say, this bill won't solve everything, so let's not pass this bill. And then eventually you pick off enough pieces of the package to where the package loses its teeth overall. How do we maintain that level of, while you can't eat an elephant in one bite, getting enough done to eat the elephant?
Such a good point, Brian. I'm so glad that you brought that up. That's why we talk about the need for comprehensive legal reform. A lot of people will go back to 2020 with reforms that were passed. Well, a lot of things happened. Those reforms really did not have any teeth by the time they passed. They were so watered down that they had, little to no effect. Then we had COVID happen. You're really comparing apples and oranges. So it's hard to do, but it's important that we get folks, everyday voters out there, and people who are engaged to understand that this truly does impact all of us. This is not business versus the trial bar. It is really an issue for all Louisianans, and we really all have to be engaged and tell our lawmakers and tell the governor that we don't just need legal reform, we need real legal reform. And that's what we're pushing for this session. Comprehensive reforms that really address the root cause of some of these issues and help us change that legal system to bring more balance, to bring more fairness. We're just talking about leveling the playing field, bringing more transparency to juries so that they have all the information that can be made available to them when making a decision. That's really all we're trying to do here. And when that happens, when that change happens, that balance will come, and hopefully we will begin to see those effects. And will we see them overnight? Absolutely not.
No.
All of this takes time.
Yep. In the meanwhile, we'll continue talking about it as often as we can. She's Lana Venable from Louisiana Lawsuit Abuse Watch. Thank you so much for a couple minutes this morning.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it.
Always. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we are going to dive back into the legislative session next. Awesome. Whew, cleared the spot. Good. Caught a case of the yawns, man. And I don't even feel tired. I'm just yawning. When was the last time you pulled a reel from one of the videos?
It's been a second.
And what was the last YouTube you posted?
Last one was Tim Temple, I think.
From yesterday?
I think it was day before yesterday.
It was yes. Tim Temple was yesterday.
It might not have been Temple.
I want Temple up there.
Okay. Yeah, I'll get Temple up there today then.
Okay. Not only do I want Temple up there, but I want a reel pulled from it as well. Specifically, you got to back it up by a minute before it. But I asked him the question about giving his office more power to affect rates.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, I have the authority and I use it.
Oh, okay.
That part right there is the punchline, but you got to rewind back by about 35, well, probably close to a minute.
Yeah.
To get the beginning of his answer.
Perfect. Yeah. Let's see.
.755 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Thanks again to Lana Venable for talking about the some of those latest numbers when it comes to what the tort tax is. It's a weird situation to be in because here in Louisiana, I want to say we're like 38th, 39th when it comes to tort tax, somewhere in that range. With our tort tax being just over $1,000 per person, $1,011.24 per person. And you say, Brian, 38th from the, I mean, with like 38th, that's pretty close to the bottom of the list there. We're not doing that bad. That means there's only 10 other states. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 other states that are below us or have a lower tort tax than us. And you say, yeah, that's true. But the flip side of that is, of the 10 states, Mississippi, Arkansas, and Alabama are included. So when you look around the Southeast and then like I factor everything in when we talk about making our state appealing, side by side when compared to our neighbors in Mississippi, they have the absolute lowest tort tax in the nation. Our neighbors have the lowest tort tax in the nation at $513 a person. We are double Mississippi. Now, we're way below Texas, who's at $1,700 a person. But that's seeing the side-by-side comparison when you have, and think about how many times you hear these states come up when they talk about the economic development and where projects might be going. You got Kentucky in that list. You got South Carolina in that list that's beneath us. You got, like I said, Alabama, Arkansas, Mississippi. How about adding Oklahoma, New Mexico, Montana, Idaho, West Virginia, all to that list as well. So it is something we do still want to work on. But Talk 1073 Spring Cha-Ching, powered by Citizens Bank and Trust, is back. Register today at talk1073.com for your chance to win $5,000 cash. It is Spring Cha-Ching from Citizens Bank and Trust and Talk 1073 FM. Told you we'd be going back into the legislative session in this segment, and we absolutely are. Courtesy of our news partners over at Louisiana Radio Network, by the way. They're talking about the House and Ways and Means Committee approving a proposed constitutional amendment that would give voters the opportunity to decide whether parishes should have the option to increase the homestead exemption from $7,500 to $12,500 in assessed value. The vote was 9-5. The bill's author, New Orleans Democrat Matthew Willard, says since the homestead exemption has not increased since 1980, people are getting priced out of their homes.
When they start to factor in how much their monthly payment is going to be, including insurance and payments toward their property taxes, it's not affordable.
Okay, but like taxes have to come from somewhere, right? Willard says if people can't afford their homes, they're going to move to a state where they can, and Louisiana can't afford that.
The homeowners are the people in this state that we cannot afford to lose. They have a vested interest in the success of the state, the success of their neighborhoods, their communities. They have their roots down.
Jim Patterson with LABI, he spoke with Louisiana Radio Network as well against Willard's bill. He says if you increase the homestead exemption to lower property taxes, the government's going to need to make up that revenue somehow.
If it's adopted at now a local option level, because of the millage roll-up, there's going to be a shifting of taxes to others.
Property tax, when you look at us side by side with, let's say, Texas, we're already disproportionately low.
Property taxes generate 73% of local tax revenue nationwide. Now, you know how much the state of Louisiana generates by way of tax revenue? 44%.
We're looking at moving things around on the board. We lowered the state income tax and raised the state sales tax. Now we're looking at tax homestead exemption. Why not just start back over again rather than continuing to shuffle all the deck chairs? All right, we got hour 3 coming up next. I'm gonna walk around for a second. Eight 806 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Hour 3 coming your way right now. Brian here with you. John LaBeouf producing. Got a busy third hour to get to. We'll talk with Kristi Trail from Restore the Mississippi River Delta about the Mid-Barataria Sediment Diversion Project. In our next segment, we'll talk with Congresswoman Julia Letlow for a little DC Current presented by the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry coming up before the hour is over with. Going to get you to This Day in History presented by 5 Star Printing and Signs in just a second. I do need to remind you, though, LSU softball coming your way, 10 o'clock this morning, weather permitting. And I say weather permitting because apparently there's some light rain going on in Athens right now. Everything is still as scheduled. LSU is still slated to play Mississippi State at 10 a.m. Patrick Wright will be on the call for the LSU Sports Radio Network, beginning with pregame at 9:45 as things stand right now. So, Moon Griffon fans, get it in the first hour because we got to bump them in the second because LSU is playing softball in postseason play. I love a little postseason play. Hopefully, LSU can find that third rail of the season, right? They started off so strong. But the Southeastern Conference is so tough in softball. And then we went and added Texas and Oklahoma. Like that wasn't going to make it infinitely worse. You're home for LSU women's sports, be it softball or women's basketballs, right here on Talk 107.3 FM. All right. My guy Danny over at 5 Star Printing and Signs proudly puts his name and his reputation on our next segment. We call it This Day in History. All right, let's get it. What you got?
Yeah, 1718. The city of New Orleans is founded by French explorer Jean-Baptiste Le Moyne de Bienville.
Yeah.
That happened today.
Really?
1789, first U.S. presidential inaugural ball for George Washington is held in New York City as well. 1914, U.S. Congress establishes Mother's Day. I didn't realize that was 1914. Wow.
For Mother's Day?
Yeah.
Did we not have mothers before that?
Right, exactly. Or at least they, weren't acknowledged, 1914, I guess they decided, hey, let's,
Who established it? Was it Hallmark?
You know what? Yeah, that's, no. Oh, man. Let's see. 1945, unconditional surrender of the German Third Reich to the Allies is signed by General Alfred Johl.
Okay.
At Reims in northern France.
Yeah.
So surrender. Germans.
Mother's Day is first celebrated in 1914, but brunch was invented in the late 19th century.
Oh.
So I glibly said Hallmark, but I bet the inventors of brunch might have had a hand in this.
Oh, I'm sure they did.
Because Mother's Day is the most celebrated holiday at a restaurant. The toughest day of the calendar year to get you a reservation at a restaurant. It's not Valentine's Day. It's not graduation day. It's Mother's Day.
That's right. Wonder where Father's Day ranks on that, huh?
20th.
20th.
Right of celebrated holidays overall. Not necessarily just with restaurants, but I mean with celebrated holidays overall.
Oof.
Father's Day is the 20th most celebrated holiday of the year.
Oof. All right.
Yeah.
Man.
Can you think of 19 holidays?
Right. 1975, U.S. President Gerald Ford declares an end to the Vietnam era.
Just declared it?
Just declared it.
Right.
That's it. Declarations were made.
Sure.
So. 1998, Mercedes-Benz buys Chrysler for $40 billion. It is then the largest industrial merger in history.
Love it.
So that happened. Hey, 2019, hackers seized control of the computer system of the U.S. city in Baltimore, demanding a ransom in Bitcoins to unlock them. Bitcoins. That's still a thing.
Yes.
Or was that hot for a minute?
It's still very, very much a thing.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Anything else on this day?
Sony was founded on this day.
Really? What year was that?
Interestingly enough, 1946. So a year after we're done with World War II, the Japanese are like, you know what? We're going to hit them with Walkmans.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Right. Revolutionizing the way we listen to music.
Right? The Walkman. Precursor of the Discman.
Yeah. Had both, man. Loved it.
The Discman might have been the worst idea ever. Because CDs skip.
The CD skip.
Right.
Even though they claim like the unskippable, like when they're like a
Nope.
non-skip version or something, they
No,
always skip.
I mean, you claim it.
I remember
Sure.
being a kid on the bus, and every time like we'd hit a bump, it's like,
Up.
skipped
again.
Skips. Dang,
Yeah, the Discman was terrible.
man. Had mine.
You know what was underrated?
What's that?
The pocket rocker.
Okay. Yeah.
Is that too old for you?
Wow. Little
Pocket
bit.
rockers.
Yeah.
The
Wow.
little mini cassettes.
Yeah.
Oh, I miss the pocket rocker.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, it had like
Dang.
a little, it had the little single in there.
Yeah.
Walking around my pocket rocker with LL Cool J's Around the Way Girl.
There you go.
That was with a jam right there.
Man, I'm telling you. Throwback.
I know.
Whew.
Birthdays.
Let's see. Not too many. Let's see on my end. Mr. Beast is at the top of this.
No
list
kidding.
over here.
Happy
The kids-
birthday, Mr. Beast.
I know the kids are rejoicing. right
My son absolutely adores Mr. Beast.
now. Yeah.
Can't get enough of Mr. Beast. Couldn't tell you what he is, who he does, or how he got all this money to give away. Dude gives away a lot of money.
Like a lot.
A lot of money.
Yeah.
Like, where's that coming from?
Your guess is just as good as mine. It can't be in all streams, right? It can't be in
No, I mean,
YouTube
like,
streams.
yeah, he's got like products out
he's
there,
come
right?
from money,
He's got
yeah.
merch.
Oh yeah.
He's got chocolate bars now.
That he does.
I want to say there's a hamburger restaurant too. Mr.
Yeah.
Beast Burgers.
No doubt. No doubt at all that Mr. Beast has his own burger. Let's see. Actress Lily Rose Depp as well today. Anybody else on your end? Because it's a little slow on
Sure,
my
why
end.
not? Born on this day in 1840, Tchaikovsky, Russian composer. Tchaikovsky, born on this day in 1840. How about Gary Cooper? Whatever happened to Gary Cooper? Born on this day in 1901. You also had go back to composers. This time we'll go German with Brahms, was born on this day in 1833. Johnny Unitas, born on this day in 1933. And how about Tim Russert, born on this day in 1950, and former LSU wide receiver Reuben Randall was born on this. Oh, that's the wrong page. Reuben Randall was born on this day in 1981. Oh, former 49ers and Chiefs quarterback, the precursor to Patrick Mahomes, Alex Smith, born on this day in 1984.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. I told you I had a lot.
Yeah. What about deaths on your end?
There's
The deaths are
I don't have too many on the deaths.
Right. Yeah. Or at least any of that someone know right offhand. Like John Stuart Mill, for example. Apparently he was a prominent English philosopher.
No clue.
Of the most influential of the 19th century. And yet who is that?
Yeah, I've got Holy Roman Emperor Otto the First died on this day in 973.
Okay, yeah.
So if we're going back that far,
yeah,
that's a reach.
Yes,
National
indeed.
Days, what you got?
National Tourism Day, which I guess goes
I'll
hand
take
in
it
with that real ID.
Yeah, absolutely. It's 8:15 at Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll check in on the mid-Barataria sediment diversion and a few other things with Kristi Trail from Restore the Mississippi River Delta next. Oh, crap.
Yeah, that's her on the line as well.
Oh, it's like I just can't stretch enough. Like my body, like I stretch, like no matter how much I stretch, it's just, I need to take a day off from the gym.
Let's see.
818 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. The Mid-Barataria sediment diversion has been the center of a lot of controversy lately. A lot of us thought this was just, resolved and they were going to move forward with this project, which was, an overwhelmingly huge coastal restoration project that was going to provide numerous benefits for us here in Louisiana. That's not to say the project's dead, but there's a pause button pushed. Joining us now to talk about it is Kristi Trail from Restore the Mississippi River Delta. How are you, Kristi?
Good morning. I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well as well. Glad to have you back on, although I wish we had a progress report and not where we're at this morning. But there is progress on where the public what the public understands and where their support is. Let's talk about it. There's 2 new polls out. Give me the breakdown.
Yes, and this is something we've been doing for a couple of years now. We do a poll about every 2 years, so we just released a fresh poll last month showing that 93% of Louisiana voters approve of the state having a comprehensive plan to deal with land loss using the latest science. And that's just amazing, 93% of Louisiana voters.
How do we get to that number?
Well, I'm not a pollster, Brian.
Sure.
But that's why we reach out to the professionals that do it. But, they extrapolate based on the data, talking to voters. So not only talking to voters across the state, but specifically really with voters in Southeast Louisiana, where a lot of these large coastal restoration projects are taking place, including the Mid-Barataria sediment diversion. You talk to those voters, 83% of them support the diversion being built there in Southeast Louisiana. So it's just interesting to hear talking points from some of our elected officials that say, oh, the parish doesn't want it. Well, our polling says something different. 83% of the voters do want it, and they do believe in the science behind it.
Okay, let's talk about that because that is an important differentiation right there. 93% of voters approve of the state having a comprehensive plan. 83% of voters in the Southeast region approving the Mid-Barataria sediment diversion. So not just the general, amorphous idea of a plan. This part of the plan in particular has this level of overwhelming support.
Exactly. And that for us is just a major point to make, and why we're just not really understanding why some of these elected officials are not representing their constituents. Their constituents want this project built. The state has already secured a permit. The federal government, has gone through this rigorous process of sharing information from the public, sharing information with the public. And so why are we at this position now? It's something that, us as an organization, we just don't really understand how we got here.
We're talking with Kristi Trail from Restore the Mississippi River Delta about the Mid-Barataria sediment diversion project. Kristi, let's go back to the very, very beginning of the story here. Tell us what the Mid-Barataria sediment diversion project is and does.
So, we know that South Louisiana was built by the Mississippi River. Over thousands of years. We are built on an alluvial floodplain. And, over time, we constructed levees to manage the flooding, but that had consequences. We need the water and sediment from that river to maintain the land that we live on here. So once we started recognizing that, some solutions were developed that involves reconnecting the river to the land around us. And, that's easier said than done. We built levees. Now let's just find some ways to take them down, right? Because we need those levees in the river for navigation and for commerce, and obviously to protect the communities that live up and down the river. But with all the amazing scientists we have here in Louisiana, we came up with a plan to reconnect the river. So again, finding some openings in the levee where we can construct a highly engineered design to reintroduce water and sediment into some areas that have suffered from significant land loss, very significant land loss, and need that water and sediment to survive. And that rebuilding those wetlands has many benefits, right? It reinvigorates our fisheries. It builds land that buffers storm surge and just thriving economy for all the, birds and wildlife and sportsman's paradise that we all enjoy here in Louisiana. Without reintroducing that sediment and water back into the wetlands in some of these starved areas, such as the Barataria Basin, that estuary will completely collapse. And our communities will literally be on the coast. We talk a lot about the coast, but we know we have all these wetlands around us that protect us, and it's not necessarily an easy drive to get right on down to the coastline, right? We need those wetlands to protect us. But if we don't build this diversion, we don't build these large-scale restoration projects that have been approved and through a rigorous process with lots of public input, then we won't have a coastline anymore. And when a storm comes, we will suffer much more significant consequences than we have seen in the past. And that's really unfortunate. And that's why this polling is so important. The voters agree that we need to build it to protect our communities and our economy and our sportsman's paradise.
I want to get to debunking a few of the myths or the arguments against. I want to get to that in just a little bit, but talk to me a little bit about the fisheries specifically and how this would actually benefit them.
Well, it recreates some more habitat. Estuaries are nurseries. That's where marine life come in and they have their babies, especially in the summertime, which we're seeing now.
Right.
They need that shallow, warm water where it's protected and they can come in and have their babies, whether that's sharks or shrimp or any type of marine life. They need that. Without it there in a salty environment, we don't have that estuary where they can come in and have their protected estuary to have their babies in the summer. So it is something that we need to ensure that the population of our fisheries right here in Louisiana's own waters can thrive for generations to come. So, without having some reconnected brackish water and shallow land, it will become just a deep, salty bay that's not an estuary, that's not a place where our fisheries can thrive. And there's other fisheries that we have all up and down the Mississippi River. We have a Bass Masters tournament that comes down here too. So some of the species that we fish for like the freshwater. So we've got to be able to maintain all types of fisheries and not just look at one particular type.
I got to learn a term from State Representative Joseph Ogeron, and it sounds so much cooler when he says it with his accent, but what is estuarial necrosis?
Dr. Ogeron has a PhD in physics, and I do not. So he can throw around terms like that, and you're right. With his accent, it sounds much better than when it comes from you or I. But yeah, it's just watching our estuary collapse right in front of us. We need that estuary. It's a shallow, brackish environment where, again, the marine life come in to thrive. When it falls apart and suffers from necrosis, i.e. a death of the estuary,
right,
we will not have that area where those little fish can come in to be born. And again, we need all components of the estuary. And that's what we've always had here in Southeast Louisiana. Just knowing that, we've all grown up here. We fish in those areas. We want to see it thrive.
Absolutely. We've got Kristi Trail on with us from Restore the Mississippi River Delta, talking about the Mid-Barataria Sediment Diversion Project. Let's talk about a couple of the arguments against to rebut. A big chunk is coming from the oyster fishermen. What is the response to their complaints?
Oysters are one of the types of marine life that aren't mobile. They spawn their baby oysters, form a reef, and then they're not mobile. So, that's one thing that with this project, there is money set aside to ensure that the oyster fisheries will continue to thrive. We all love our oysters here. Why would anyone want to decimate the oyster fisheries? So there is money set aside with this project that comes as a result of the Deepwater Horizon disaster to ensure that those oyster fisheries can still continue to thrive. Money set aside to move some reefs, money set aside to buy some new oyster fisherman boats, and money set aside if there's someone that wants to pursue a career, maybe shift from oyster fishing to maybe alligator farming. So money set aside to ensure that we can still have a thriving economy, even with oysters.
Would the Mid-Barataria sediment diversion affect the dead zone, the hypoxic zone?
In terms of, maybe tell me a little bit more about your
just
question.
Exacerbating that in the Gulf of America, when every year we see that dead zone coming when the river flows out into the Gulf. Would this project affect that result in any way?
This flow of water is such a tiny trickle off of the Mississippi River into the Barataria Basin, where again, it used to be all the time before we constructed levees there. So no, it's a highly engineered system that will control the water flow. Some days that diversion may run at just a trickle. Some days it may be turned off completely. Some days it may run at maximum flow. Highly engineered systems. The Mississippi River dumping into the Gulf of Mexico just dumps on in all day, every day, right? Full flow. Nobody's controlling that flow. We get a lot of nutrients coming off of the farms from, further up north off the river. And they impact the fisheries out in the Gulf. The Barataria, the mid-Barataria sediment diversion, highly engineered diversion where the flow will be controlled. Again, that's where the operational regime comes in. The state has so much input into that. So let's build it, figure out an operational regime that works so that we can ensure that the Barataria Basin thrives, that it doesn't have a dead zone, that all the fisheries, succeed. So there's a way to do it, and we just want to see it happen.
We got about a minute and a half left with Kristi Trail talking about the mid-Barataria sediment diversion. One of the biggest roadblocks in projects like this is cost, but correct me if I'm wrong, Kristi, haven't we already figured out how to pay for this?
Absolutely. We have all this money set aside as a result of the Deepwater Horizon incident. It's all there, fully funded. Now we've encountered these delays only because the state did that to ourselves. The state paused it. The state is incurring fees. The state has penalties to pay now. They did that to themselves. But the money was there to construct the whole project, fully funded as a result of the Deepwater Horizon. Let's take advantage of that and build this amazing project that has been studied for decades that will really save our coast.
She is Kristi Trail from Restore the Mississippi River Delta. Thank you so much for a couple minutes this morning.
Thank you for having me on.
Always. It is a big deal. I know it's downriver from where we are right here, but if you look at maps of Louisiana over the course of the last century and you see where our coastline is at and you see the potential of what this could do, I'd be hard pressed not to pay attention to it. I probably should pay more attention to it than I already do. All right. We got news, traffic, weather coming your way. Don't forget, the Live After 5 spring concert series continues. Clock out and rock out with us this spring in downtown Baton Rouge for our free, yes, free, count them free, concert series. You can join us this Friday. The Mixed Nuts take the stage from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. for Live After 5. No, I have not yet looked at Friday's weather for that one. Mixed Nuts this Friday. Wonder where he said that. There's the Congresswoman. All right, let's go ahead and get you started on that forecast. What we're looking for as the day wears on. As far as the thunder's concerned, thunder and lightning is concerned, we should be just about in the clear at this point, just rain from here on in. We're looking at that rain at least through 1 p.m., probably noon to 1 before it really starts to peel off. 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, expect the clouds to stick around. Then 3 o'clock, all the way through sundown, expect the sun to poke itself back out again. We are not going to get very warm today, obviously, with that much cloud cover. Your high is only getting up to 74 degrees. Overnight low tonight will get down to 61. Now, tomorrow, there's another 40% chance of rain. Friday, there's a 40% chance of rain. Saturday, a 60% chance of rain. it is that time of year where you're going to have some percentage chance of rain every single day. Right now, it is raining. It is 70 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. (8:38) Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along, right back to the hotline we go. Let's waste no time at all. It's DC Current presented by LABI. Welcoming back to the show, as we do, Congresswoman Julia Letlow. Congresswoman Letlow, how are you?
Hey, Brian, I'm doing well. How are you?
I am doing very well as well. I understand you got a busy day in front of you with committee hearings today.
We sure are. I'm running. I'm about to go to the subcommittee hearing for approach in agriculture and have a chat with my good friend, our new secretary, Brooke Rollins.
So what's going on in that committee right now? What are we looking at?
You know, I really want to just ask her what her vision is for agriculture for the next couple of years. You know, we've had some trouble getting a farm bill through, and I want to make sure that that she is able to help our farmers and producers in the meantime. And just so excited to have some time with her. I've met her once before. She is a go-getter. I am confident in her ability, her background in agriculture. So just so excited for the opportunity to talk with her one-on-one, and for that matter, put her on the record.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when it comes to the farm bill. We've had numerous hangups with that one. Are we any closer to actually having a farm bill?
I'm an eternal optimist, and I'm continuously encouraging my colleagues to make sure that we get this through the finish line. I have full faith in our chairman, G.T. Thompson. He feels strongly that we are actually going to get it through. You know, the House, we do our work. It seems to get caught up on the Senate side, but we're going to continue to do our job. Our farmers, producers are depending on it. I know I say it every time, but it's not just about putting food on the table. It's about being able to feed ourselves. It's about national security. And so I want to make sure that I'm doing my part to make sure that we have a robust farm bill that will meet the needs for our producers and farmers.
Okay, you said it a lot more like a mom than a politician right there. You know when you ask your mom, like, can we stop for ice cream? And she says, we'll see. And that absolutely means no.
That's right.
I'm not saying I took negativity out of your answer, Congresswoman Letlow, but
it's a good example.
Okay.
Good example.
Speaking of the mom end of this, you're actually you've introduced some bipartisan legislation on paid leave. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. So whenever I am out and about in the district and I'm talking to young parents, one of the main concerns that we have in getting our moms and dads back into the workforce is not enough support for them. And so, you know, I worked on a task force, as a bipartisan task force. We're still putting our minds together about how we can provide paid family leave for our new parents. And, you know, whenever I talk about it with them across the district, they're so encouraged that we're actually coming together in a bipartisan way to try to find opportunities. And so this first bill that we've introduced is a pilot program. It's not going to cost the taxpayers anything, but really just to incentivize the states to come up with a program that will meet those needs for our new moms and dads, and so that they can apply for grant money to be able to do that. So just excited about the possibilities. And again, I think the people elected me to come up here to try to find results, and that's a perfect example of just that.
And I'm sorry, refresh my memory. Who are you working on with this?
Yeah, so one of my colleagues on the Republican side is Stephanie Bice. She's the lead on it from Oklahoma. And then on the Democratic side, it's Kristi Houlihan. So we've been putting our heads together, but it's also like-minded moms and dads across the aisle that we're just coming together to try to put our heads together. Again, don't want to increase taxes on anybody, so we're definitely looking for a pay-for, but there's, as you know, a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse in other areas that we can claw back from to try to find an avenue for our caregivers.
Okay, so I'm glad you brought it up, because I was going to be hesitant, but I was going to bring it up anyway. But when you mentioned waste, fraud, and abuse, how do you thread that needle to say we want more paid time off? I mean, especially like as far as America's concerned, we've always been behind the curve versus say Europeans when it comes to giving folks maternity and paternity leave. How do you thread that needle to say more time off makes us more productive?
Well, it's not, it's a slippery slope. You got to be careful. You can't give, in my opinion, people 2 years off, But
No. Yep.
Being a mom myself, I know how important those first 6 weeks are, in not only for the mom and the dad, but for the baby as well. And to have that nurturing and that time to care for that little one. Brian, you're not getting much sleep. It's not a vacation by any means. When I had my first two, I did not get paid leave. I had to take time off and did not have a paycheck coming in. And I will tell you this: I did use my vacation hours to help me out during that time. But that was no vacation. That's the hardest work I've ever done in my life.
Oh no, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's so, because you get to the point where it's the sleep deprivation, Congresswoman. It like, I'm not trying to like, oh, poor me as a dad, but when I'd get home from work, that's the time to let the wife sleep, right? It's time for me to take over once I get home, which means when I get back to work, I'm a zombie, which means I'm not productive at all.
That's right. That's right. So it's giving moms and dads just a slight just pause where they can know that paycheck's going to come. But that's what we're talking through right now in the task force. Like, how long should it be? Is it 6 weeks, 12 weeks? Just working through all of that. But again, I'm a fiscal conservative. I want to make sure that this is not going to increase the burden on our country and our taxpayers. But just like you said, through DOGE, we have found a lot of funding that was going to improper programming, and we can start to throw that needle in better ways that actually support our moms and dads and get them back to the workforce rested and raring to go.
We'll get Congresswoman Julia Letlow with us. This is DC Current, presented by LABI. You mentioned DOGE right there and finding some dollars and whatnot. Have we gotten to the point where we've seen most of what we're going to see from DOGE? I mean, I know Elon Musk is looking into him. He's pivoting back to his life as he's got his own problems. But have we seen most of what we're going to see, like the results that we're going to get, we have gotten?
I hope it continues. I think sunshine is the best medicine. I want to be as transparent as possible with the American people. I think it's always good to lift the hood of the car and see actually what's underneath, how things are running. So I think this has been a great exercise, Brian, in finding ways to cut back and save. But I still honestly feel like there's more work to do, and I hope that DOGE will continue its good work.
Couple minutes left here with Congresswoman Letlow. Of course, DC Current, always presented by the folks over at LABI. The Louisiana Association of Business and Industry is your state's chamber of commerce. Congresswoman, you worked very, very hard on the Parents' Bill of Rights. I understand that work is back in the headlines again. What's the latest?
Yeah, so we've been watching the Supreme Court case really closely. What happened in Maryland in the Montgomery school board situation where children were being exposed to literature that was sexually explicit, and parents were not given the right to opt out of their children viewing that material. Again, Brian, this should not be happening in our country. Parents should have the right to opt their children out. So I am hopeful, listening to the justices and what they had to say in that case, I'm hopeful that they will rule on the side of parents. Because as I mentioned in 2023, when we put forward the Parents' Bill of Rights, you should always have a say when it comes to your child's education. You should have a seat at the table. The table should be yours, actually,
right.
And how you educate your children. And so I'm so hopeful. We do it right in Louisiana. We've had a Parents' Bill of Rights, but again, just stunned that this is coming back in the headlines, and we're still dealing with parents not having a seat when it comes to their child's education and a say in what they're exposed to in public schools.
And as I understand that with this case that originated of Maryland, you had people of different backgrounds, different faiths coming together, all pulling together saying this is just completely in the wrong.
Absolutely. I mean, this is what I think ignited a lot of voters in the last election to say we deserve to have say when it comes to our child's education, and we don't want a administrator or someone outside of the home deciding what's best for our children, especially when it comes to major life-changing decisions too. We can get into that sometime later, but yeah, it's a motivating factor on people from. It doesn't matter what party you're in. We want to protect our children, and hey, it brought out the mama bears. That's for sure.
And she is the mama bear of Louisiana's delegation. Look, I know there's no way to read the tea leaves on what the Supreme Court's ever going to do. I know that's asking the impossible. So let me ask the impossible. What's your early takeaway, your early vibe on this one? Where do you think it's leaning?
I think they lean in favor of the parents. I really do. And that would be the right decision. So I'm hopeful. We'll see.
Busy day committee wise, we touched on where you're going to start off. Where do you go after that?
Yeah, so we're going to try to make it over to education and workforce. We are actually questioning 3 more university presidents on how they're handling anti-Semitism on their campuses. These are, they're not the Harvards of the world, but they are important nonetheless because a lot of our students go to these middle of the road universities. So I want to make sure that they are doing the right thing on their campuses. They've had some episodes. So we're just going to kind of hold their feet to the fire and make sure that they are standing up against anti-Semitism. So that's how I'm hopefully going to finish the day if I can make it over there after questioning the Secretary of Agriculture.
Well, let you get after it and get back to work. She is Congresswoman Julia Letlow. We always appreciate the time.
Thank you so much, Brian. Have a great day.
You do the same as well. That was that a little bit too much with the, yes, your mom, if you could stop for ice cream, and she says, we'll see. That means no. She tried her best to spin that to be positive. I wasn't getting that vibe, though. Speaking of the Farm Bill, we'll talk with Ag Commissioner Mike Strain on the show tomorrow. That we'll make sure that's one of the topics along the way. All right, we got Your Money Now coming up. We'll check traffic one more time. We will come back and close it out right after that here on Talk 107.3 FM. Don't forget, download the all-new not all new anymore, the free Talk 107.3 mobile app. Find out what you missed each day and watch us live on Facebook and Talk 107.3 Baton Rouge YouTube channel. All of it's courtesy of the folks over at Lake Urgent Care. Lake Urgent Care, walk-in care for minor illnesses and injuries. Here's Your Money Now. Who to what to now? Oh, I forgot to give you the I want some cuts for the outside in. 10, 11, and 12, please. I think the nickname's finally stuck, by the way. The mama bear of the Louisiana delegation. It seems she has fully embraced that, and I love it. Now, if I can get Congressman Carter to unembrace the human filibuster, we'll be getting somewhere.
Yeah. Then progress would be made.
Jeb says there's a Mr. Beast Burgers in Baton Rouge near City Place. Never been to it, but Google Maps says it's there. Yes, Jeb, you are correct. I believe it's inside the movie tavern, though. So, and I desperately want to take James to it, but we'll go if we're going to a movie, but I never go to the movies. I very rarely go to the movies, I should say. And I'm not going to take him to get burgers at movie prices if we're not going to a movie. Does that make sense? Like, I don't want to. He's happy with McDonald's. I don't need to take him for a $18 hamburger, you know? Oh, and do we really have to ask why coastal erosion is being delayed, blah, 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 paid for, but special interest groups like oysters and fishermen and others? Yes, absolutely. There is long-term planning and news cycle politics, and I understand both of them. And when you're the sitting governor, you have to play news cycle politics, especially when you're trying to fight battles on other fronts. What in the hell is pop money? $8:56 to talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. We're about to get out of here. Hand off to Moon Griffon, who, due to the weather, stayed in Lafayette today. He was supposed to be in town for an event, and that got canceled. Moon's gonna be in studio with us next Tuesday, so I gotta see if I can carve out a little bit to get him to hop on with us during this show. Well, we have him on every Monday, but that's always more fun when we can go back and forth in person. We're going to have Moon for all of 45 minutes before we pick up the LSU softball game. Of course, Patrick Wright on the call from LSU Sports Radio Network as LSU is in the SEC tournament. They've got Mississippi State in the first round. That's going to be coming your way. 9:45 pregame, 10 a.m. first pitch. Before we get you to the outside in, got to remind you about the folks over at Landmark Bank, landmarkbankla.com, landmarkbankla.com, founded over 100 years ago. The bank, not the website. Landmark Bank, founded over 100 years ago as a community bank. And here in 2025, they remain a community bank, true to their mission. Now, while they've remained a community bank this whole time, they don't lack in services. In fact, digital services that they offer. Whether you're talking about online banking, bill pay, e-statements, mobile banking, whether you're talking about online card controls or a program they got called Pop Money, similar to Venmo. You got mobile deposit. You're on the business side. You can manage. You got cash management online. You have online banking for your business. You've got remote deposit capture for your business. As everything that you would get from one of the national banks, one of the bigger names, you'll get at landmarkbankla.com as well. Check out their locations at landmarkbankla.com. All right, before we get out of here, we got the outside in coming your way. Every once in a while, we'll do things a little bit different in the outside in, and that's exactly what we're doing today. Going to focus on one story and one story only, and it takes us up to Shreveport. You heard the news from Louisiana Radio Network. SkyWest Airlines, the largest regional airline in the U.S., has chosen the Shreveport Regional Airport as its 13th maintenance base, supporting its fleet of nearly 500 aircraft. Louisiana Economic Partnership CEO Justin Dixon says the new facility is expected to create 150 new jobs, averaging $70,000 per year, and 375 indirect jobs, bringing that total number up to 525 for new positions in Northwest Louisiana.
Over 100 of them are aerospace mechanics. It's allowing us an opportunity to grow that workforce base. We have an aerospace, what they call an A&P school, which is airframe and power plant.
Dixon says the project supports LED's focus on aerospace and logistics sectors in which the state has longstanding strengths, including underutilized space, low operational costs, and port access as well.
It's just a great place that's not quite as busy as a Dallas, obviously, but you can get in here easily, you can get the work done, and you can get the planes back in operation, which is how they make their money.
And connecting the air to the river, I guess, when you talk about the port access as well. Just another win on the economic development front. I'll take every 150 jobs we can sign off on. That's going to do it for us. Moon Griffon's next. We'll see you tomorrow. All right, Facebook, I got to get out of here. I've got a 9:20 interview with, tell me if you like this. All right, let's workshop this real quick. All right, here we go. Chris Whipple, author of Uncharted, How Trump Beat Biden, Harris, and the Odds in the Wildest Campaign in History. You down? You like it? He's a New York Times best-selling author of The Gatekeepers and the Spy Masters, now turns his sharp eye towards the historic 2024 presidential race, providing the definitive insider account of the most dramatic and significant political showdown in modern American history. I don't know what he's going to say. I don't know if he's got a bent from the left or the right, or if he's down the middle as possible. But what I do know, I'm going to get out of him, I hope I'm going to get out of him, is that the Democratic Party is in such disarray. The fact that they force-fed that candidate down their throats. Did 2024 set the table for the midterm elections? Normally, when you see an election like this, your party's going to have drop-off in the midterms. I don't know that that's going to be the case this time around because, number one, being force-fed a candidate is real and will have negative repercussions. And number two, Donald Trump still has a year to get his you-know-what together to have all this tariff stuff hammered out so that we can see some real repercussions in our own lives. Any Hoosiers, we'll see y'all tomorrow.